Evolutionary Ecology and the Native Americans by Brian Rao. Evolutionary ecology. Evolutionary ecology is a study on certain characteristics that are adapted within a given environment. Native Americans are important in American history and have been a part for centuries. Anthropologist studies conclude that the first Native Americans crossed into North America from Siberia during the last ice age. Native Americans' lifestyle. Native Americans primarily survived off the land, which included a lifestyle similar to hunters and gatherers. This food collection term, or foraging, is defined as a food-getting strategy that obtains wild plant and animal resources through gathering, hunting, scavenging, or fishing. These Native Americans survived from the forests of North America, which provided a means of food, clothing, shelter, and other basic survival needs. People or cultures that primarily engage in methods of survival are called hunters-gatherers. Hunters and gatherers are defined as people who collect food from naturally occurring resources, that is, wild plants, animals, and fish. The Native Americans hunted birds, squirrels, rabbit, deer, bear, moose, and bison. Native Americans also raised crops such as beans, squash, corn, and several others that soothed appetites. Native American tribes. Native Americans consisted of tribes that vary from the northwest coast, Indians of California, Indians of the southwest, Indians of the plains, and Indians of the eastern woodlands. Native American customs. These tribes also had marriage customs that regulated relationships inside these cultures. Native American men of age 20 and greater are considered mature enough for marriage. Native American women, on the other hand, are eligible for marriage around age 15. Several Native American tribes allow men to have anywhere from 2 to 5 wives at once. When these Native American men marry, they prefer to marry sisters. Within this marriage of sisters theory, Native American men view this as a more peaceful marriage. They believe these sisters are able to get along better with one another versus two women of separate families. Polygamy, or the custom of a man having more than one wife at one time, was practiced among many Native American tribes. Older Native American men in the 60s or 70s will marry a woman around 16 years of age. Native American housing. Indians of the plains lived in houses or dwellings called teepees. Teepees are made of a cone-shaped wooden frame with a covering of buffalo hide. Houses were utilized by southern plain tribes. Grass houses are made of a wooden frame bent into a beehive shape and thatched with long prairie grass. These houses were great for adjustment to warm environment. Houses built according to the environment prove how Native Americans easily adapt to surroundings. Behavioral ecology. Behavioral ecology typically tries to understand contemporary human behavior using evolutionary principles. Native Americans are a great example of how human behavior adapts and changes to the surrounding environment. Native Americans have a spiritual connection with nature. Spirits were believed to govern the actions of all plants, animals, rocks, and weather phenomena. For example, most Native American tribes believe that when the weather is bad, the Great Spirit is displeased. The Great Spirit is the idea of Mother Nature. They respect and honor this supreme being. Native Americans' behavior tends to change in accordance to weather patterns. This specific behavior change with the environment is different than evolutionary ecology, which is an adaptive change for survival. Evolutionary psychology. Evolutionary psychology is particularly interested in universal human psychology. Human psychology is discussed by anthropologists as an adaptation to the environment that is viewed as human history. In other terms, one article describes evolutionary ecology as an ecology derived from a critical focus on adaptation and natural selection. Natural history provides a pure example with language of species, advantage, and survival.